Hello and welcome to Friday's Total Soccer Show. I am Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who is improving the reputation of Americans in England and Wales. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello, that's kind of you. I'm not sure that's true at all, but I'll take it.
I've got you confused with Bob Bradley. That's what I've done.
Okay.
That's what I've done. I'm sorry. But I'm still pleased to have you on the line.
I appreciate that. Thanks, buddy.
So once again, we're not in studio, Taylor, and it's all dog-related, right?
It is. It remains dog-related. You're at home taking care of yours. Mine might have a torn ACL, might have a broken kneecap. We're not sure. So
obviously your dog has my sympathies, but there is a kind of weird irony to your dog having essentially a soccer injury, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, like, I can kind of talk her through it since I've had the same one.
Yeah.
So, and she got it playing soccer, no less. She was chasing a ball.
She did not.
She did. She was chasing a soccer ball and then came back and was holding. And in typical Piper, that's my big dog's name, fashion, came back with one leg completely up in the air, putting no weight on it, and like dropped the ball at my feet and was like, "We're not stopping.
Let's go again.
It's game time." We did stop though for you animal lovers out there.
Well, I hope she's back in action before the end of the season.
Me too.
Should we get to today's show, Taylor? We're going to preview Swansea v Arsenal. It's actually at Arsenal, right? It's Arsenal v Swansea. Yep. Bob Bradley's Premier League debut. We're going to look ahead to Monday, where it's Liverpool versus Manchester United. I think I've heard you're both excited and terrified by that game, and we'll also look ahead to some of the games happening this weekend. Mm-hmm. So first up, Bob Bradley's debut as Swansea City manager is away to Arsenal. Yeah. We're going to look at we've independently researched what his options are and sort of thought about how to go up against Arsenal. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, but I don't think we even need to talk about it because Swansea, recently have a good record against Arsenal away, and that means it's going to be fine. I know that's your favorite stat, so I felt like bringing it up right now just to annoy you.
Is it, that they haven't beaten them since 2011 or something?
Yeah, which obviously means that's, a relevant statistic when it's two completely different teams with a new manager in place.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at the idea of this game. You got Arsene Wenger, the longest-serving Premier League manager, unless I'm mistaken. I think he's got 20 years or so at Arsenal, right? Yep. Bob Bradley making his Premier League debut. This is a baptism of short passing fire for Bob Bradley.
This is true, although it's weird to say that I think I'm correct in saying that he is not the newest Premier League manager, because Mike Phelan has finally been appointed as Hull City manager, I think, this week. So I think Bob Bradley's got a couple days on him.
Do you not count interim games?
I don't know. I mean, he was the interim manager. Now he's the full-time manager. I'm not sure how that works.
That's interesting. Uh-huh. Yeah, well, so longest time at club sort of thing is the metric, right? Didn't you see like a chart on Reddit recently? Did you see the same thing I saw?
No, I didn't.
So there was a chart of like longest-serving managers, and obviously Wenger's at the top with his 20 years. Bradley had already moved up a couple spots. So it doesn't. All you got to do is stick around for 6 months, and you'll climb the table of longest-serving Premier League manager. So
I really haven't seen that table, but I have the feeling that it's like depressing after Arsene Wenger. Like I would venture to guess that like Jurgen Klopp is way too far up that table.
Yes, he is.
Having only been at Liverpool for a year and a half.
That's
not
true.
Even that, maybe just a year at this point.
High turnover. It's a revolving door in the Premier League.
Yep.
So the big thing is, to me, there is weirdly a lot riding on this game because it's the one everyone's going to pay attention to in terms of Bob Bradley in the Premier League. And whether he likes it or not, and whether we like it or not, the reputation of American soccer coaching is kind of in his hands this weekend.
Yeah, and very unfairly so.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of those things that I don't agree with, but I think it's also true.
It is, and it's also in reading more about Swansea, it's sort of like the frustrating nature of the, like, I shouldn't just say like British press, but the press in general, because I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a lot of not necessarily criticism of Bradley, but criticism of the idea that like play the Swansea way is going to be dead, that he's not going to play this exciting attacking soccer anymore, that it's going to be very pragmatic and trying to avoid relegation. But then one of the criticisms I consistently see about the current Swansea team is that they're all out of shape. So it's like, how can you be out of shape and be really like high pressing, high energy? Like that's not the way that works. And so part of it is going to be that he's bringing in his old fitness coaches to get them back into shape, to get them ready to play the way he wants them to play. But I feel like it's kind of similar to the aforementioned Jurgen Klopp in that in his first game, you can kind of see what he's trying to do, but it's unfair to judge him if like the Liverpool players then couldn't fully execute the gegenpress. You wouldn't really judge Klopp. I don't think it's fair to judge Bob Bradley so much based on this one game, even if that will be the case.
I mean, and hopefully, even if this game is some sort of disaster, he'll still have time to fix it. His next two games are home to Watford and away to Stoke. So it does get a little easier. after this. It's just that this is the one that's going to have all the focus on it. I feel like we can only think in terms of weekends, right?
Mm-hmm. This is yeah, absolutely. And so maybe it's worth looking at what we think he might try to do or what he can do with this Swansea team.
Okay, so before we do that, can I just give you the injury report?
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not good, is it? He is missing Fernando Llorente, big Spanish striker who has scored for Swansea this season. He's missing Jeff Montero, Total Soccer Show favourite, the Ecuadorian winger. He's missing Nathan Dyer, and he's missing Federico Fernandez, the centre-back.
There's some speculation that Fernandez will be back and able to start. I still think it will probably be Amat and Van der Horn.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter because none of them are, like knights in shining armors when it comes to defensive ability.
And when you're, if you're only familiar with Swansea from last season, because it's still early in the Premier League season, right? We're maybe 7 games in. The big miss is also Ashley Williams. If you're just thinking of last season's team, Williams has gone to Everton.
Yep. So, with that said, what are some signs, maybe reasons to be optimistic if you're an American/Swansea fan?
So, I don't know about reasons to be optimistic, except that maybe the idea of this like pressing thing that Swansea had been doing semi-successfully, I don't think I would do that against Arsenal.
No.
I think I would maybe bunker a little more and try to hit on the counter. Not least because it seems like they've been playing Alexis Sanchez as that centre forward, so they've got much more sort of pacey threat to hit you on the counter, right? With like Sanchez, Walcott, maybe Iwobi on the other wing. That's really dangerous if you press. So when I say they've been semi-successful, they've lost all the games, right? They pressed Man City, they pressed Liverpool, they scored, but they ultimately lost.
Right. And that's why I don't think you'll see them be too pressing. I think they will sit back a little bit more.
Yeah.
The problem there becomes that I guess he doesn't really have a natural kind of holding defensive midfielder. He has no Kyle Beckerman. So we'll see what he does. Or I guess Ricardo Clark would maybe be more fitting.
But he does have guys who can defend, right? Like Cork, I think of as a big guy who can do some defensive work. And Leroy Fer, even though he sort of offers an attacking threat, I think of him as someone who's like really good in terms of tackles and interceptions. Even I think his stats are pretty good in that sense. So he can break up play as well. So he's got guys that can do it.
Yeah, but I think there's a good article in Sports Illustrated by Henry Bushnell kind of previewing this game, and he has obviously watched more Swansea than I have, and he makes that point as well, that Fair can do that, but then it tends to kind of unbalance your midfield. I think it's kind of similar to what like the United States when they were playing New Zealand this past week, that it's sort of like you get some guys in there who maybe aren't as familiar with what they're specifically supposed to be doing, and it can create kind of confusion and unevenness in the performance.
Well, that's not encouraging.
No, but I think what is encouraging is that certainly sometimes you do have that new manager bounce, and it's just because there's a new face in there.
Yeah.
People are feeling kind of invigorated. But I also think that what tends to happen when the new manager comes in is he does the really obvious stuff. And that's what I think Guidolen had stopped doing. I think that's why they were running into problems. So from everything I've read, he was like playing defenders out of position, playing right backs at center backs, playing center backs outside.
Right.
He was playing Gylfi Sigurdsson out wide when Sigurdsson wants to be in the middle of the field. And it seems like Bob Bradley can kind of come in, do the very practical things, like the way you know when I know it's probably been a while, Daryl, since you've played FIFA, but like when you'll go to like look at your team before you play like a one-off game against somebody, and you're like, wait, why is this guy starting? He's a 62,
right.
And I have like a 91 on the bench. That's not happening. And Bob Bradley's like gonna make those substitutions, I feel like, and just kind of naturally have a stronger team as a result.
The one I'll be looking at is Leon Britton. So Leon Britton, I don't know how familiar you are with him, but he's that guy that's been at Swansea, I think with one quick trip to Sheffield United, but otherwise he's been at Swansea ever since they're in the lower tiers, and he's gone all the way up. And I think he's in his mid-30s now, but he's kind of a delicate playmaker type guy, and he's definitely a little guy. And I do wonder if what Bradley might do is get Cork and Fer as like deeper, two defensive midfielders almost, and then drop Leon Britton and then bring Gylfi Sigurdsson back to the middle to be a central attacking midfielder.
Interesting.
That's what I would do if I was Bob Bradley, but also the real Bob Bradley's smarter than me, so who knows?
At least when it comes to maybe managing temes on a national and club level.
Well, only one of us went to Princeton, let's put it that way.
That's definitely true. Wait, you didn't, did you?
No, it was Bob.
I mean, so what do you think then? Like, if it's like a 2-1 loss, is that? I guess that's never going to be positive because it's still a loss. But like, what do you think is the minimum Swansea can do to have people be like, okay, well, that's fine?
I think not get blown out in terms of Bradley's reputation. That's why I'd be scared. It would be a really bold move to go after them and go pressing and come up with something. Or to do, like he talked about good passing football in his press conference. I think to try and pass your way around Arsenal is still kind of dangerous because they do have a sort of slightly more aggressive look about them in previous seasons, right? With Mustafi and with Elneny, guys like that. So I think just not taking a big gamble and losing 4-0 would almost be enough of a success for us to go into next week where Bradley Swansea faces Watford at home and be like, okay, they didn't win that game, but it was no worse than usual. Now we can like start against the teams that we have more of a chance against.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think you're also right, especially because for Arsenal, they're definitely without Aaron Ramsey. It seems like they're going to be without Olivier Giroud, at least to start. So you probably are going to see that very high tempo attack that you mentioned with like Walcott, Iwobi, and Sess. That's probably not a team that you want to try to like run against. All that said, though, I did love that I was looking at the betting odds. Olivier Giroud, still the odds-on favorite to be the first goal scorer, despite potentially not even going to figure in this game. So who knows what to make of that.
Interesting. Maybe don't put your money on that. Maybe that's just an attempt to tempt you into wasting your money.
Yeah, that could be.
The one thing I would say, Swansea's advantage may be their aerial threat. Because I was just looking at Leroy Fer, 6'3". You've got Cork is over 6 foot. You've got Gylfi Sigurdsson's actually a big guy. I think he's 6'1" or so, although he takes most of the set pieces. And then you haven't got Llorente, but you have got Borja, the striker, who Spanish striker has not scored a goal yet for Swansea, but is a big guy. I can't remember if it was against Liverpool or Man City. He had a golden chance and headed it straight over.
So I don't mean to take the wind completely out of your sails, but I have another quote from you from that Henry Bushnell article. Quote, of the 12 goals Guidolin's side conceded, 7 came either directly or indirectly via balls into the box. A few of those 7 were the result of fluffed clearances. End quote. So maybe they have the aerial presence going forward and then just need to tighten up a little bit at the back when it comes to clearing those balls and winning those headers. That's
really worrying to me because even I looked at Van der Hoorn, the 23-year-old Dutch centre-back. Is someone I think people were kind of excited about. Came from Ajax. He's another big guy. So I would have expected Swansea to be dealing with aerial balls. Defensively. So maybe that's a big Bob Bradley thing. You talked earlier about them sort of doing the basics right again. Maybe Bradley has got them in there. Hopefully he's worked on some defensive set pieces. I remember Jay Demerit and Gooch having no trouble heading balls away against Spain in 2009 under Bob Bradley.
Wow. A long time ago. And then the only other tiny little wrinkle that's worth mentioning is Swansea's goalkeeper is likely to be Fabianski, the former Arsenal goalkeeper.
Why is that?
So you never know if it's going to be like stand on his head performance just to show them ha ha ha.
I
he's
see.
Kind of over it by now.
Yeah. I think it's been long enough that the fire might have gone out in his eyes.
Hey, Fabianski always has fire.
Anything else to say about this game, Taylor, before we just sort of sit back and cross our fingers and watch it happen?
Other than to say that I don't know if I'm more nervous for this game for Bob Bradley or for the next game that we're going to talk about because I'm a Manchester United fan.
Well, if you're going to be watching Arsenal v Swansea, as I think most sort of American soccer nerd heads like us will be doing,
Nerdhead,
it's going to be on CNBC. That's where it will be shown live on CNBC. So just in case you have trouble tracking it down.
All right. What about the next game, Mr. Grove?
Well, before we talk the next game, we've got to talk FUTCHI.
Okay, let's do it.
Today's show is sponsored by the fine people at FUTCHI, the Engineered Soccer Rebounders.
That's right. We love FUTCHI. We play FUTCHI. It embarrasses us, does the FUTCHI. We tried to do just left-footed. That did not go well. I would like to improve my left-footed ability.
That video will never see the light of day.
A buddy of mine who I believe listens to the show, and if so, hi Scott, just moved to Richmond, and I kind of brought up the idea of playing FUTCHI with him, and he was like, "Oh, it'd be fun to try different stuff like alternate foot," and I didn't say anything, but I'm just like, no, it wouldn't. It would not. It would be humbling and saddening all at once.
Should we get Scott involved? He's a former college player, right? He's got some skills.
He is. Yeah, I'm sure he does. I'm down for that. Although if he humiliates me having not played in 2 years, I think I'm not sure I'd be okay with it.
Okay, well, so I'm heading back to the UK on October 25th, which means we only have next week to do another FUTCHI recording. So maybe we should set that up.
All right, I'm down.
All right, more FUTCHI footage on the way.
Sounds good. But in the meantime, we've got a FUTCHI to give away.
Yeah, there's a FUTCHI on the way to somebody at no charge, because we ran a FUTCHI giveaway contest. We put a tweet out, it might be a week ago, asked people to retweet it, and everybody who retweeted it, we put them into a draw to win a free FUTCHI Rebounder. Now, Taylor, I know you've done the randomizing at your end, so if I give you a drum roll at this end, are you ready to announce the winner?
Yes, but before I do that, I want to say thank you to everyone who did retweet that tweet. That said, I don't like all of you who retweeted that tweet because it was way too many of you. Way too many to have to go through and categorize. But yes, in the end,
successful
we do have
contest.
A winner. Indeed.
Okay.
In the end, we have one winner. Do you want to do the drum roll?
Yeah, and the winner is...
It's a nice drum roll. Brian Shaw, at @ush_money. Congratulations, Brian. I guess send us an email with your shipping address.
Yeah.
And we will get that FUTCHI sent your way.
And if you would like to get yourself a FUTCHI, you can still get a discount by using the coupon code totalsoccer, all one word, all lowercase, totalsoccer. That will get you 15% off the regular retail cost that non-TSS listeners have to get.
There we go. So as I've probably already indicated, I am eager to get to the Man United Liverpool Man United game. But before I do that, I wanted to update you, Daryl Grove. Currently, Borussia Dortmund are playing Hertha Berlin in the Bundesliga as we record this.
Yes.
Hertha have taken a 1-0 lead. We just got a tweet from Kyle Donia on Twitter, who says, I guess Brooks just got a yellow card for a foul on Pulisic. And he writes, Brooks' yellow card on Pulisic was a yank on yank. Because I guess he pulled him down.
Small round of applause here for that wordplay. I enjoyed that.
I enjoyed it. It was good.
Shall we talk Liverpool, Manchester United?
Let's do it.
So Liverpool are on a 4-game winning streak. Manchester United are not on a 4-game winning streak.
Sure?
I think your terror about this game, I think, kind of sums up how a lot of Man United fans feel, right?
It's not terror. It's just sort of like I still am not entirely certain that Jose Mourinho knows who he wants to play and how he wants to play.
Yeah.
And an opponent like Liverpool, who very clearly know how they want to play, is not the best opponent to have, especially coming out of international break.
And would you agree with me that this is a contrast in styles? That in some ways, like Klopp represents the sort of very voguish, high energy game that is sort of seems to be taking over soccer at the moment, right? Whereas to me, Mourinho, I think we talked about this when he started to have a bit of a rough start to the season after those 3 games, represents, at this point, he's an older man now, right? He's not the fresh face anymore. His tactics are kind of a little more rigid and people have defined jobs about tracking back and that kind of stuff. It really, in some ways, it kind of feels like new versus old. And it's sort of the energy and movement of Liverpool versus the sort of discipline of a Mourinho Manchester United team.
You can go ahead and throw quotes around discipline, but yeah, sure.
Why would I put quotes around discipline? You think then they don't do it?
I mean, they try to, I think.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's certain players in certain positions where they're still not fully comfortable and still don't know their roles. For example, Paul Pogba. I think if you look back at a few of the games that we've been watching, a lot of the goals or a lot of opportunities for opponents come from him sort of not entirely shutting somebody down or maybe drifting once like to the wrong side.
Oh yeah, we highlighted this previously.
Yeah,
right?
Not exactly knowing what he's supposed to be doing. The same was the case for Marouane Fellaini. I think he was struggling there too. I don't think he will feature in this game, but who knows? But
you don't think Fellaini will feature, or you don't think Pogba will feature?
I don't think Fellaini will feature.
Okay,
Pogba will definitely feature.
So where will Paulie Pogba feature?
My guess would be you're going to have a 4-2-3-1. He will be in that midfield 2 alongside Ander Herrera, would be my guess.
That seems dangerous.
Why is that?
Because then you're asking Paulie Pogs to do some defensive midfield positional work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely dangerous, and it's also dangerous because the reason why you have Ander Herrera there is because he is so he is so willing to execute the game plan, and is good at kind of transitioning from defense to offense.
Yeah.
That said, that's exactly what Liverpool will want Jose Mourinho to do. So I did hear, I forget who it was on the Guardian Football Weekly podcast, suggesting that maybe it was the best way to do this was just to put Fellaini in, hoof long balls to him over the top, so then you can kind of bypass that initial press, and then you can go on goal. So we'll see what they do. But my guess
that feels a little bit like Underpants Gnomes, where phase 2 is not entirely clear how it gets from Fellaini to going on goal.
Yeah, well, I think it's more so that you don't concede the ball in your own defensive third by trying to pass it back. That's the bigger thing that it alleviates. Don't get
gegenpressed, right?
Yeah, exactly. That said, I don't want to see that because I don't think that works very well, and I don't think Fellaini is particularly good, and I think he is very good at conceding fouls. That said, I do have a specific prediction about people conceding fouls. So
okay. Well, can we hold specific predictions a few more minutes while we set up this game? Because I've got a question about my man, Wayne Rooney. Mm-hmm. So, didn't start for England against Slovenia. Will he start for Manchester United against Liverpool?
No.
Why not?
Because why would you want him to start?
Well, I mean, I guess I don't want to rehash this whole argument again. I guess if he's not going to start in the hole behind Ibrahimovic, who's going to start instead?
Mata. That would be my guess. It would be Juan Mata, who has kind of played his way into the good graces of Jose Mourinho.
And into the centre. Is he more like the central attacking midfielder at this point?
That would be my guess. Okay. And then some combination of Jesse Lingard, Anthony Martial, and Marcus Rashford will be probably your wingers, would be my guess.
So two of those three.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right, and I think that's because Mata is maybe capable of kind of like playing not necessarily a faster tempo, but he can play those balls in. He can control the ball a little bit more, and he is more of a natural number 10 at this stage in his career than is Wayne Rooney. Okay,
fair enough. What about Mkhitaryan? What has happened to Mkhitaryan?
He's been injured. He is supposedly he and Luke Shaw are supposedly fit and ready to go for this game. I doubt Mkhitaryan starts, especially given the way it went the last time he started, which was at Man City.
Yeah.
Or I can't remember if it was home or away, but regardless, did not go well, did get pulled at halftime. Maybe you see him as an impact sub in the second half.
So before we move on to Liverpool, I want to ask about the United defence then. You mentioned Luke Shaw. Will he play left-back in this game, or will it be Daley Blind, or will it be Marcus Rojo? And who plays centre-backs? Because I'm assuming Antonio Valencia sort of nailed down that right-back spot. Yeah. So who are the other three defenders here?
I guess it's going to be Chris Smalling and Eric Bailly, David De Gea in goal. And then that's the big question mark, is it Daley Blind or is it Luke Shaw? I think Luke Shaw is probably the better defender, but is coming back from injury. You don't know how pacey he's going to be, and it is probably going to be that side that Mane will be attacking, which means that you probably want your most informed player. So I would lean towards Daley Blind starting, but who knows?
Well, more on that situation when we get to my specific prediction. Mm-hmm. Taylor, what's your Man United specific prediction then?
Well, I have a couple, and then I'm going to try to pick one in particular. So one of them was going to be that Liverpool will score, and it won't maybe necessarily appear so at the time, but upon second viewing, it will be something that Paul Pogba has done. But I'm just going to go, and then I wanted to do maybe that Zlatan will score a penalty, because it just seems like he's due for scoring a penalty.
Okay.
But what I'm actually going to go with is Ander Herrera yellow card.
Why is that?
Because there are two reasons. Number one is I do think he'll start, and I do think he'll be in that kind of holding role, and I think he'll have to be doing a lot of makeup work for other players.
Yeah.
And so that might mean a professional foul here or a too aggressive foul there. And part of that is also that if you look at this Man United team, I don't know how many of them, outside of maybe Jesse Lingard and Marcus Rashford, if he starts, really have that much of like a vested interest in the Manchester United-Liverpool rivalry. But Ander Herrera, as we've talked about many times, is so animated and is so like into the culture of Manchester United. If you watch goals when he's on the bench, he like celebrates harder than anyone else. And I could just see him being so keyed up for this game that he could also get a yellow just for being a bit too amped up.
So he's like the Steven Gerrard of this game.
I'm a little worried about that, yeah.
All right, shifting focus to Liverpool Football Club.
Let's do it.
My guess, so we're not sure about Lallana and Wijnaldum, if those guys will be back. But the one thing I can almost guarantee is that the front three will be Firmino, Coutinho, and Sadio Mane.
Yeah.
And I think that spells trouble for Manchester United.
Oh, you think?
I really see this as a game where those guys will be moving around, trying to create space, trying to create opportunities, right? Liverpool are the home team, and they'll be going at it. And I think it'll be essentially United being a bit more rigid. And you mentioned, like, say, Pogba not making the best defensive decisions. And things like the Blind or Shaw at left-back situation. I really think that there's an opportunity for Liverpool to exploit United's backline.
I mean, yeah, and then if you look at, like, historically, we've already talked about Pogba. Daley Blind this season, I mean, look at those two City goals. They both come about from him being a little bit slow, a little bit slow to react.
That's when he played centre-back, right?
Yeah. And then, I mean, Chris Smalling has shown that he's capable of getting a red card here and there. Eric Bailly, we've talked about before, a little bit reckless in his challenges. All of that is to say that you're going up against a team that is very fast and very technical.
Yeah.
That could be a very big problem for that Man United defence.
Yeah, because the way I look at it is whenever you see Liverpool, especially now they seem to have this whole Klopp thing down, it's even though it is about the gegenpressing and like stopping it when you counter and coming back at you, when they have the ball, it's so much of like Firmino starting as a centre forward and coming deep, and then like Coutinho comes in and takes that space, and then he vacates that space, and Sadio Mane comes across, and then the guys from midfield join in, and suddenly it's like there are red shirts just buzzing around everywhere, and it's really hard to keep track of. And eventually that means one guy finding space like between a centre back and a full back, and suddenly he's in on goal, right? And the thing I see happening is Mane on the right, managing to sort of exploit some space behind whoever Manchester United's left back is to deliver a goal or an assist.
Yep, that sounds fitting to me.
And the reason I'm pinpointing that left back spot is either it's Luke Shaw, who is, I think Mourinho might be tempted because his pace means he might be able to keep up with Mane, so it seems to make sense in that way, right? But he's not quite match fit or sharp, right? Like he didn't make that England trip because he wasn't fit. He'd missed some games for United before. Or it's Daley Blind, who I think is a much smarter player positionally. But there will come a point where if Mane gets a head start on him, he's just far too fast for Blind to catch up with.
Yeah. I mean, and even just if there is that moment of a decision of Blind being like, should I step or do I stay back? That's all Mane needs to kind of capitalize.
And I think he'll just exploit that space either inside the fullbacks or outside the fullbacks. He'll either go down the wing or he'll be cutting inside for a goal or an assist to Liverpool.
I like it. Now, you mentioned that front three. I'm curious about that midfield three because you're probably going to have Jordan Henderson starting. I think you can go ahead and nail that one down.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, you do have Adam Lallana and Wijnaldum, who are kind of both nursing injuries. I don't know. Have you seen the conspiracy theory about Wijnaldum?
No.
So he, I guess, playing for the Netherlands this past week, I theoretically, supposedly, complained about tightness in his hamstring at halftime, but then went out and played all of or most of the second half. Do you know who the Netherlands are coached by?
I should know this. Why can't I remember this?
It's Danny Blind, Daley Blind.
Oh!
So there's this theory that it was like, oh, your hamstring hurts? Well, maybe we want you a little bit knackered when you're playing my son.
And they just kept him behind afterwards for extra laps.
Yeah, exactly. And then they made him cool down and then start sprinting immediately afterwards. Yeah, just to see if they could really make it go. That did not happen.
To what extent do you believe that conspiracy theory?
I don't. I think that Wijnaldum is a very good player, and the Netherlands have not been playing very well of late, and maybe Danny Blind just wanted to have a better player on the field.
So other options for Liverpool in midfield include, for example, Emre Can, who I'm always excited to see. He's kind of one of my favourite players.
Yep.
And I'm not sure what Lucas Leiva's injury situation is, but if he's good to go, I always like to see him in midfield too. Liverpool have a pretty deep squad at this point. They have options.
Mm-hmm. They do, but
they'll also have James Milner at left back.
They do. I also, you mentioned that. You mentioned the idea of having Emre Can in there. For the reasons I mentioned, I also would not be surprised if this game does not finish 11v11.
Interesting.
Yeah, I could see some cards. And then since we went through all of Man United, why don't you take us through Liverpool's back four and goalkeeper?
Well, it'll be Mignolet in goal.
You think it will be?
Yeah, I imagine it will be.
I wasn't being sarcastic because I've seen a lot of speculation that it will be Karius, but Mignolet did have a better performance this past week.
So Karius is back from injury.
I believe so.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Or maybe is still on the mend and maybe not 100%. Meanwhile, Mignolet, I guess, is in relatively good form, so that I guess will then be interesting to watch.
And then I read that Nathaniel Klein and Dejan Lovren are both back from injury. They've been practicing this week, so that's a good sign for them. Matip will be in the defence, and I imagine it will be James Milner because Moreno just seems to be completely on the outs in terms of playing left back for Jurgen Klopp.
I'm not familiar with that name.
Oh, sorry, James Milner.
Oh, thank you. Okay, James. Yeah, okay, James Milner. Okay, cool. Him I know. Yep.
So that game is Monday, 3:00. It'll be on NBC Sports. I kind of hope we can watch that together in studio, Taylor, because this feels like a big one.
Yeah, it does, and I'm actually excited for all of the reasons to not be optimistic as a Man United fan.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where like the more you read about it, the more like what I would recommend to people if you're just like a fan of a team is read the previews and try to isolate like 3 things to look for and how the team is dealing with it. And then watch the game with that in mind. Because now, knowing that you are going to have that press, that there is going to be maybe some instability in the back and in those defensive midfielders to see what United are doing so that they don't get caught in possession, that will be very interesting to me. And it will be very interesting to me to see if Liverpool really, really try to kill this game quickly, which I think would be in their best interest.
Oh, could it be one of those games?
Potentially. We shall see.
One other Premier League game that caught my eye, Man City versus Everton. So Everton went off the ball a little bit the last couple of games, right? But the first 3 or 4 games of the season, they looked almost unstoppable, and Lukaku scoring hat-tricks. And I do wonder if maybe that's going to be a good matchup. We don't have time for like a full preview of that, but definitely keep an eye out for that game.
I will keep an eye out.
But I was talking to listeners, not you, Taylor.
For your request.
You do too.
My eye is out.
If you have enough eyes, you should also maybe have one on Eintracht Frankfurt versus Bayern Munich, 9:30 a.m. kickoff, US Eastern Time on Fox Sports 1. Do you know why, Taylor Rockwell?
Why, Daryl Grove?
Because Carlo Ancelotti has said that some point over the next few games, Julian Green is going to get his Bundesliga debut.
Yep.
Which reminded me that Julian Green has not yet made his Bundesliga debut.
A little bit of a bummer, but, he did have a strong international break with the United States, so maybe he's earned that Bundesliga debut, or maybe it's just that Bayern are very good and can afford to give random players debuts whenever they need to.
Well, it's a bit of both. I saw a quote from Ancelotti that he was impressed with what Green did on the international break. Obviously, he scored in both the US's games, and it does make me think, like, maybe Klinsmann did do a great thing of, like, putting him in the window, not in the shop window, in the starting window. You know what I mean? Just to remind people of what he can do. And then maybe you just sent DVDs to Ancelotti afterwards.
Yeah, I like it. I'd like to see Julian Green in there. It would be very cool to see him in there with all his other massive names.
Yeah, exactly. And I also read that Robert Lewandowski has not been training this week. I don't know if that's because he picked up a knock or just because he's tired after international duty. But it really suggests that Julian Green may play or may start or may just come off the bench for Bayern against Timmy Chandler's Eintracht Frankfurt. So we may see Green versus Chandler at some point on Saturday morning.
We may. Speaking of American duels, I have an update for you.
Oh, yeah?
Dortmund continuing to lose. Aubameyang appears to have missed a penalty, and Dortmund have made all 3 substitutions. Pulisic is still on the field.
I got good news for you. I DVR'd this at the TSS office, so if you ever want to catch that game, it's back there.
I'm guessing we'll probably be watching some highlights because I'm curious to see who conceded that penalty. Because if it's John Brooks, that's a finger wag.
The really big game this weekend, though, is Villa v Wolves in the Championship.
Is that not happening today?
No, I thought it was Saturday, 5:30.
Okay, then maybe like the Wolves Academy is playing right now.
Yeah, Wolves under 23s are playing right now, but Zenga is there. I've been following on Twitter.
Okay, our Twitter tends to be clogged up with Wolves updates for some strange reason.
I don't know who's doing that. Could be anyone. But yeah, this is Steve Bruce has just been appointed Villa manager, as you let us know on Thursday's Goalmouth. Right. Good job there. And so and it's also just a local derby, Villa v Wolves. So I'll have an eye on that. You don't feel obligated to, Taylor.
Fair enough. But as I said in that Goalmouth, for those who haven't heard it yet, I guess I shouldn't have been, but I was surprised to hear that Steve Bruce has gotten more teams promoted than any other manager, which shouldn't be that surprising, or I guess has been promoted more times than any other manager. So I guess reason to be optimistic if you're Villa fans.
Yeah.
That said, I think the top comment on Reddit about that appointment was, see you in 3 months when we appoint our next manager, guys.
That's not so much a comment on Steve Bruce as just the current situation at Villa, right?
Yeah, maybe so.
Closer to home, Taylor, it's USL Conference Finals this weekend. We are down to Western Conference Final is Swope Park Rangers, that's the Sporting KC affiliate, versus Vancouver Whitecaps 2, Electric Boogaloo. Eastern Conference Final is Red Bulls 2 versus Louisville City.
All right, so we've got some interest there. We've got some rooting interest. Yeah. I've got my connections to Louisville, and we've got Derek Etienne in the Scouting Network. And to be honest, I'm kind of leaning towards preferring Louisville because I'm into the idea of independent clubs still triumphing in USL, not the affiliated MLS clubs. They're the only one, aren't they?
I'm not entirely sure what the relationship is between Swope Park Rangers and Sporting KC. Like, I don't know if they're sort of Sporting KC 2 under a different name or if they're just an affiliate club that happens to share some branding. But I do know that Louisville is an independent team, and because of our Richmond Kickers connection, I kind of feel more biased towards the independent teams in the USL.
Yeah, I think so. We're definitely sure they don't have any connection, right?
Well, at least they weren't set up as a second team for anyone.
Okay.
I'll go that far.
I feel like maybe I could be totally wrong here. I apologize, Louisville fans, but I feel like they were affiliated with somebody, but no longer are. But who knows if that's the case? It was Orlando City. They were affiliated with Orlando City before, and then Orlando City got Orlando City B, and now they don't have that affiliation anymore. There we go.
Did you do that? You did that without Googling?
I did.
Just your accessing your memory files?
Yeah, because I think in doing the commentary, I think I remember hearing about that, or hearing about it from my Louisville City fans, friends, either way.
All right. And then the other bit of USL news for you, the final, I think, is next weekend, and that's going to be on ESPNU. So whichever the two conference champions are, they will face off, and that game will be on ESPNU for everybody to watch on TV.
Alrighty.
Final bit of domestic soccer news, Taylor, or game to watch. I took a quick look at MLS, and I'm thinking the televised game to watch is not Montreal-Toronto, because Toronto are already in the playoffs. I think it's Timbers v Rapids.
Really?
Yeah, because this game is 5:30 on Sunday. Timbers are 2 points outside the playoffs. There's still time to save their season, right? Because there's a couple of games to go. They could catch Sporting KC. And then Rapids are in the sort of chase for the Supporters' Shield. So both teams have plenty to play for. And Timbers are hosting that game.
Yeah, so it's Colorado on 57 points, FC Dallas on 56.
Yeah, so Rapids can't
tight
really...
Supporter Shield race.
Yeah, tight Supporter Shield race and a tight playoff race in the West for the Timbers. So Sunday, 5:30, that's your MLS game to watch.
These are facts.
These are facts. Well, these are opinions, actually.
Well, the tight race is a fact. The opinion, you're right. The rest of it is opinion.
Oh, Taylor.
And rampant conjecture.
One final thing on today's show, Taylor, and it is the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network. We have just the one report.
But it's a doozy.
Actually, before we get to Rob Lulashink's report, we should talk about Jay Gregor's adventure.
All right, let's do it.
So Jay Gregor actually went and met his scout. This is Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, right? He went and met his scout, NYCFC's Costa Rican fullback, whose name is escaping me, Atarita?
Ronald Matarrita.
He went and met Matarrita, got a photo with Matarrita in a TSS t-shirt.
He did.
So that is peak TSS scouting at the moment.
It is. And Jay, if you want to look at the Twitter timeline, like just whichever host happened to comment and retweet that first, probably is just like, the more observant and the one who cares about you more. That's all I'm saying.
It's the one that spends more time on his phone. And I'm the one that doesn't check what's been retweeted before retweeting.
I don't know. Yeah, there's that too.
My apologies for that. But thank you, Jay, for getting that picture. Really appreciated it.
All right.
Today's report is from Rob Lulashink. He is scouting Michael Petrasso, but it's not going so well for Michael Petrasso. Is that right, Taylor?
That is correct. Although I have to say, we do love our competitions here, especially our pronunciation competitions. So I'm going to go with Rob Lulashnik, and I'm going to see which one of us got it right.
Okay.
But he is scouting Michael Petrasso. Rob reports, my scoutee hasn't seen the field in 4 months, so I've had a lot of free time lately. To entertain myself, I've written a trio of limericks about my player. I hope you enjoy.
So this is Canadian Petrasso, who is at QPR. And yeah, Rob has written us a limerick as his report.
It does seem, as you pointed out, that these could be read as like one long limerick, shoved together. Like 3 of them could be read as one poem. So I think we should do that.
Okay, yeah, 3 verses, right? Should we go? I've got it in front of me. Should we go a line each?
That works for me.
Okay, I'll start. There once was a man named Petrasso,
whose season so far is a fiasco.
Club and country aren't calling.
Now his career is stalling.
Does he need a new club? Perhaps so.
He originally hails from Ontario.
Now he's stuck in a subpar scenario.
This is ridiculous. Loftus Road is his ground.
But he's never around.
Probably at home with his stereo.
He's in the last year of his contract.
And the depth chart in midfield is stacked.
But if he gets a chance...
his teammates' play he'll enhance.
And you'll get a report, that's a fact.
Well done. Well
Not
done.
an opinion.
I did some researching of my own on Petrasso.
Okay.
Just in the hopes that maybe like Rob had missed some little nugget of truth.
Yeah.
Instead, the only things he missed is that...
Wait. I want these in limerick form.
That's not happening.
Okay.
Petrasso was included in the QPR 2016-2017 team photo. But then I looked at the responses to that because he retweeted it. And the first response was, "You're alive!" with an exclamation point. I'm not sure if that was Rob or somebody else. I did also see that Canada's interim manager said he had his eyes on Petrasso, but that the player was ruled out due to injury. That still means he was in consideration, which I'm going to take at this point as being positive news.
Okay. So best of luck to Michael Petrasso. And thank you to Rob for a creative scouting report without much information to go on.
Yeah, well done. Well done, Rob.
I think anytime you rhyme Ontario with subpar scenario, you're onto a winner. If you would like to join the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, limerick writing skills are not required. They're just encouraged. You can do so at totalsoccershow.com/subscribe. That's where you do it. Thank you to all the people who have subscribed this week. We very much appreciate it.
Of course, it is worth noting that your first scouting report it's mandatory haiku form. Just so everybody knows.
Maybe we should make epic poem the mandatory form.
Good Lord.
This would be a gigantic epic poem.
Yeah. I don't see how that could be that could be a terrible idea.
All right. Thank you for everybody who has subscribed. Thank you to Taylor Rockwell for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you to Daryl Grove for the same.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We will be back on Monday morning with a review of all the weekend's action.
We will, Daryl Grove, but first I have to tell you my final update before we go.
Okay.
Aubameyang has equalized, and Emre Moore has gotten a red card. That's
bad news for TSS Scouting Network, Emre Moore. Good news for Christian Pulisic.
Probably so. I have 84th minute, Emre Moore red, fight.
Oh, I've DVR'd this here, so as soon as we've done recording, I'm going to go watch that game.
All right. So, listeners, I hope you enjoyed that final update. Daryl Grove, I hope you did as well. And thank you again for listening.